back to the Creating Wealth and Wellness podcast with me, Tara Missildine, and my dearest friend, Amanda Kingsley. Today, we are going to take you on a journey where freedom is cultivated through personal development, where women connect to fuel their futures, and where wealth is created as a byproduct of being well. And today, we're going to talk about friendship, specifically friendship amongst women, friendship with women. Hi, Amanda. My dear, dear, dear friend. What are you grateful for today?
We've been having beautiful weather, and we created this space on our deck a few years ago, and it just feels like a little room out there, and I love sitting out there and sucking up the warm weather and clear. It's been clear and just beautiful. It's just been beautiful. Oh my gosh.
My word.
Wait a second. I'm really excited too, because this weekend I'm going to my favorite music festival of the year. So
fun. Is that Green River?
Yeah.
Nice. I know a lot of people that are going there. My very good friend Megan, speaking of friendship with women, she is a wonderful sweetheart. She is a beautiful jewelry artist.
Cool.
And she has a booth at the Green River Festival. So see if you can find her and say hello and check out her stuff. It's really, really unique and special.
Cool.
Super minimal, gorgeous. Actually, we can link to her Etsy store or whatever she has I'll find it and link.
I got earrings at Green River Fest last year. I lost one of them and it broke my heart.
Oh, no.
My dad actually bought them for me. We were walking through together. I wonder if it was one of hers.
Oh, man. Well, I'll try to find her and put her in the show notes because she's really a wonderful artist. Okay, so my gratitude today is for presents.
Like jewelry from Megan? No.
Well, that'd be a very valuable present. And appreciated, Megan, if you're listening. Anytime. But I'm like looking around my office and I'm wrapped in this amazing like wool shawl that was given to me because my office air conditioning is like fritzy and it's 61 degrees in here. And while I love being cold, I love being cool. I'm straight up cold, but not in this amazing like alpaca wool gorgeous shawl. So, but then I look around and like there's so many presents that I have in here. People grace me with presents often. That is not to say that I will not take as many more presents as want to come my way. I am not shy about receiving presents.
Is that one of your love languages?
I think it might be. It's definitely my daughter's. Even like she'll come up to me with like a leaf or a weed from the backyard and be like, "I got this just for you." But it might be. I'm not sure. So we are going to talk about friendships with women today. And this is very near and dear to my heart. And I know that we've mentioned it numerous times in other podcasts. And we have a somewhat related podcast episode where we talk about this for quite a bit, but it was in regards to something else. And I know that it struck a chord with a lot of listeners. And this was like in our first 10 episodes. And so many of our listeners are women, primarily women. And ambitious women at that, women who have big things on their plates and we're going places and we're doing things and, we are being, and many of us, I think, have a history of not finding it easy to be friends with other women. And that was a lot of the feedback that we got during that other episode. So many people wrote me directly, talked to me in person if they were local, and just really resonated with that experience of that it took work to really figure out how to have really close dynamic relationships with other women. Is that true for you?
Oh, about 1,000%.
Okay, so we could either unpack that, of why is it so hard for so many of us, and the interesting thing to me is like the women who were saying this are women that I find it very easy to be friends with right now. These are amazing women, amazing, generous, driven. They are women that are bringing their gifts to the world. And these are the women that most closely resonated with that. Why is that?
I mean, one of those things like, are you really going to say this on air? But I don't feel like I really truly understood friendship with women until I found entrepreneurship.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I have a few dear friends who I've always been friends with, and I value and I love them, and it's amazing. But my history in friendship has really been mostly with men until entrepreneurship, and I feel like it gave me the freedom to be who I really am. And I don't feel like I had that until I turned like 35 and found network marketing. Like, that was the first time I really felt like I had permission to be me as a woman. And that was when I started attracting other women who were being them. And I was like, oh, these are some sweet friendships. Like, we get to both show up as who we are and go places that I never ever went with women before.
So this is super fascinating to me. And I've been an entrepreneur for essentially my whole adult life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find this really, really fascinating. So why do you think that those connections didn't happen with women prior to entrepreneurship?
I think it's cultural, honestly. I think it goes back to women's oppression. And I think women are incredibly powerful, deep thinking, feeling, soulful beings. And so much has been squashed out of us culturally, that many of us have just lost our way. Like, we don't, like, the world doesn't, our culture that we live in primarily doesn't teach us to understand who we are and how we want to relate with people other than to compare ourselves to others, right? Like, that's the big cultural message women get, is like, how do you compare to other people? Like,
That's where my brain was going too, the comparison competition thing.
and it's like, I do believe we're all here to be of service. The cultural message that women get about being of service is very different than the one that I believe is true for all of humanity. Like, very different than, like, it's your job to take care of the kids and do the cooking and the cleaning and I don't know, I just think, like, we've been squashed as women, and when you're squashed as women, it makes it really hard to connect with other women.
At least in really positive ways.
Yeah.
Commiseration doesn't necessarily feed a very healthy friendship.
No.
No.
And it's not true to who we are. Like, it opens doors for growth sometimes, but it doesn't feed who we are at our soul. And so the drama and the complaining and the, like, nagging and the gossiping and, like, so much of what I've seen,
And the undermining.
yeah. Oh, awful.
Okay, so you've said too many things in the last few sentences that have triggered me to want to share another podcast that I've recently found and completely fallen in love with. Oh my God, am I glad that she has arrived on the scene. And it's relatively new. And oh my word, I can't remember her actual name except the name of the podcast. Oh, Vanessa Rodriguez, maybe. But her podcast is called Feed Your Wild. And one of the most recent episodes is this amazingly brilliant woman who has devoted her entire life, last 40 years or something. She was a Harvard professor and left the establishment because it wasn't conducive to the research she wanted to do, which was revealing suppressed women's histories. And it is a fascinating episode, but just the work that this woman is doing in her podcast is really awesome and speaks to so many things that you said. Like, women haven't had permission to be what women are supposed to be in our culture for a while. And it's really hard to embrace that about you when you're afraid that it's somehow, for so much of my youth, I felt like the things that I was driven to do made me unladylike.
Yeah.
So all of my friendships were with men because I resonated with their ambitions, their permissions, so much of that. And I didn't aspire to a lot of the things that were feminine
Mm-hmm.
in my very early days. And I
Like the color blush.
like the color blush. Yeah.
That podcast is gonna keep coming
I
back.
know. Well, it's an oldie and a goodie. It's definitely like it'll have to be in our best of 2018 episode.
Absolutely.
Uh, oh, hey, that's a good idea. We should do like a best of
Yeah,
2018
totally
compilation
should. Hmm.
episode with like all of our favorite quotes of the this year's episodes. Oh, that would be so fun. I'm gonna write that to my assistant. Um, yeah, so I feel like that's part of why I had such a hard time having friendships with women because I didn't like aspire to the same things that I thought women were supposedly aspiring to.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I met women who were also aspiring to the same things that I realized, like, oh, this narrative, yeah, really wrong. Like, this isn't woman. This isn't womanhood, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I think the more of us that are like claiming that for ourselves, the easier it's becoming to locate those friendships because that's so many women, you know?
I think that the episode we did a little while back called Feeling Your Feelings, I think is a really big piece of it too. Like
Mm-hmm.
women have been squashed to feel what they're actually feeling and share it.
Yeah.
Just tradition, and men have too, like big time, maybe even more big time. But um, when we're not recognizing our own feelings and sharing them with other women, to open that door, like it kind of like opens a waterfall, right? Like if I've been trained to not talk about my feelings and then I decide to really honor them and share them with another woman and she decides to really honor and share her feelings, like sometimes it's more than we're prepared to handle, and so we just avoid it, right? And because it's easier to just avoid it, but that's where all the magic
It
happens.
really
And
is.
like we live in a culture that we are women are such feeling creatures, but we don't live in a culture that really is open or accepting to actual feelings.
Mm-hmm.
um and so it's intense to be really open and honest about what's going on in your life with other women, and I don't feel safe to do that with a lot of women because it can open up a cascade of like, because I want to share all my feelings and then I want to move forward and learn from them and evaluate them so that I can grow and become a better person. And I can do that with so many women in my life right now, but I never was able to before because it just kind of got stuck in that. It's interesting. It's really hard for me to listen to the teenage girls do the like complaining, gossiping, talking, chit-chatting. Like I want to jump in there and be like, no, stop the whole thing, break it up. Like, but it's part of their development and I have to just lead by example and let them go through that and learn from that. But like so much of me wants to jump in there and be like, don't
Mm-hmm.
talk about your friends that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even always harmful. It's not like they're mean, but those like, can you believe so and so? And I'm like, no. It's like the hardest thing to let them learn through that. But I have to believe that just modeling and then having those conversations when they come up with,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know how I got there, but
That's okay though. I mean, it brings up an interesting point because always like our growth is partly to, facilitate the growth of our children, right? To facilitate a shorter learning curve for the things that we regret
yeah.
taking such a long time to learn, you know?
Well, my girls are so my oldest is 14, and I know I spent many of her early years when she was little hanging out with other women and just kind of like bitching and complaining and talking junk. um so I didn't know any better then. And
Yeah.
she did absorb, and there's nothing I can do about that now. I'm not going to be hard on myself. It's what I knew, and I've now grown and evolved and am modeling differently. And hopefully, it's not too late for her to suck up some of the new modeling. But
Mhm.
um,
I'm sure that it's not. I mean, it's a shortening the learning curve, you know?
yeah, but I do feel a true difference between the way I model my interactions with other adults now and the way that I did even like 5, 10 years ago. So
Okay, so that brings up another interesting question for me. Like, I know that things were different, you know, when your 14-year old was little and you were in those like quote unquote circles, the way that you describe them, of women bitching and moaning and commiserating and gossiping and all of that. And you're not now. So like you've changed. What has changed within you that like why? Why did you feel the need to change?
a desire for growth. My why.
Yeah.
um I I just, yeah, I guess deciding what I want my future to be. Because when I was in it before, and when I was in it before, I didn't think about the future. I didn't think about like what am I creating in this world? Like what am I creating for my life? What am I creating for my children? It was just like, how am I going to get through today?
Mhm.
And when you were thinking, how am I going to get through today, you don't really make many choices based on like values and morals and vision and creation and dreams. And once you start living the life that you want, you start like crafting your life instead of just like reacting to it. um
So
Everything changes.
you used a phrase that I think is really powerful, and it came and went very quickly. And I would like to dive into it just a little bit. And you said that you didn't feel safe sharing those feelings and things with women, without giving like detail or anything like that. What kinds of things happened in those early relationships, that weren't what they are now? Like, what kinds of things happened that made you feel like it wasn't safe?
It was all me too. I want to point out that the way I show up is what's changed. Like I can be around those same situations. It's just me and how I show up that's changed. No one was doing anything wrong. Like even the culture, the way it is, it's not the way I would choose it to be. But it's not. I don't want to try and control the culture. I want to try and control how I am in the culture,
Hmm.
which hopefully will ripple out some change.
Yeah.
um, but it's me that's changed, not the situations. I decide to show up differently and intentionally and purposefully. So I feel safe showing up as me. That's what changed. Like the situation is just as hostile out there in the world of like body image and women bashing and like all kinds of junk. I just feel safer showing up as
Hmm.
me.
And
It's just as unsafe out there in cover girl models and advertisements.
mhm. And I
I
feel like it's just as important to point out that the potential for these amazing, transformative, wonderful relationships is also the same. But we now have more access to them because of the work that we've done. Do you know what I mean?
personally.
Because of the work that you've done personally, you can now access so many of these amazing relationships with women that have always been available. And I think
Yes,
the
yes.
that's such an important point to make. Like, yes, it's just as hostile and dangerous and potentially unsafe,
Mm-hmm.
but all of the potential for the great things is also equally there.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so do the work that we need to do, which what on earth is that? It's the whole package, right? It's showing up authentically. It's knowing that, you know, the what you're bringing to the table has an influence on the people that you're trying to be friends with, the same way that their behavior will influence you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just
cool.
as we grow and change, our interactions with the world grow and change.
Yeah, and our perception of the world changes as well.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that parable of, the traveler who comes to the gate of a city, and asks, like, are the people, I've heard that all the people in the city are thieves. Would you find that to be so? And the gatekeeper says, I think you will definitely find that to be so. And then the next traveler comes through and says, I heard that the people in the city were kind and generous. Is that true? I'm sure you'll find that to be so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever we're bringing into the world, that is what we are given access to about the world.
That came through in I think every single coaching call I had with clients this week was like, you're gonna see what you want to see. Do you want to see the thieves or do you want to see the kindness?
Yes, good, cool. So
And
we're
those,
definitely aligned.
if you think the thoughts, I'm going to find the kindness, you're going to find the kindness. And if you think the thoughts, I'm going to see the thieves, you're going to see the thieves.
Yeah,
It's like when you get a car, a new red car, and everywhere you see
everywhere. Reticular activator, the science of the reticular activator.
Well, I feel like we've been talking for a long time and we haven't we sort of unpacked what didn't feel so good about women's friendships, but we didn't really dive into what does feel so good.
Good point, because it does feel so good.
Yeah.
It's opened up a new element of my life that, like, now if I'm not circling with powerful women in love, like, I feel the void in my life right now.
Yeah.
One of my very dear friends, Tatiana, who was also a life coach by her own right, was facilitating a new moon circle for a while that was just a spectacular place of personal growth and support for me, and like
so
just a
lovely.
circle of women. And she has moved to the West Coast, and so that ended a while back, and I am feeling that void. I'm so grateful that I have this time with you and this podcast, and some of the other relationships that I have formed in the last year that can kind of help me fill that void. But my gosh, do I miss that presence of that circle.
And that circle was once a month.
Right.
And so powerful. Like fill your cup for the rest of the month kind of deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it doesn't take much to really make a difference, like to spend time with women in meaningful, powerful ways. Like it fuels you for so long. Like it's amazing. Before Tara and I started recording this podcast, we were just like cracking up about something silly. And that's what it's about. It's about laughing together. It's about crying together. It's about choosing to go deep together. It's about leaning in when you need support. It's about being available and holding space when someone else needs support.
Yeah, and being truly witnessed. That's something that always was one of the most powerful pieces of the circle for me, was just, like, I don't always need feedback. I don't need anyone to fix an issue. Sometimes all I need is a witnessing so that my reality can be my reality and I can move through it and with it. And I think that like strong, genuine women can offer that to other women in like the most profound way. It is so amazing just to make eye contact with a friend across a fire and speak your deepest truth in that moment, and just have people around you that are willing to hold that with you. It is so transformative. Yet nothing changes, nothing needs fixing, nothing needs, there isn't any commiseration needed. It's just witnessing and holding. And
witnessing and holding.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yes,
I wonder, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just wondering if there's like a website or something that shares about public opportunities for women to connect.
I know, there must be.
I feel like there has to be, but I guess that'll be my ask for today, is like, do you have a resource that would help someone if they are desperate for this kind of connection with other women?
There must be meetups.
There's got to be, right?
Meetup.com.
But I mean, like, I know that our fire circle or our new moon circle was not publicized anywhere. It was like, we were there because we were friends with other women that were there, and it grew by invitation. So
and I think just starting that is is a place we can all go. Just
Yeah.
really making an intentional choice to start those circles, like with new friends, with old friends, with community, with I think it's time. I think it's time
Absolutely.
to bring back the new moon circle.
I know, right? Well, that is going to be my ask is listeners, wherever you are, where do you source your most supportive women friendships from? Let's like help everybody think
Yeah.
outside the box or even think in the box if they don't have a place right now. Where do you source it? You know, is it
Yep.
midwifery groups or is
Right.
there something that someone around you has set up? Like, let's just share some
Book
ideas to get some of
clubs,
these
like yeah,
started.
what is it?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's my ask.
Good one. I'm going with it. I'm just gonna
All right, we have a tandem ask.
let's hear
Where do you source your support and women friendships? But anyways, Amanda, I'm so grateful for you as a friend.
It's
I
been
really am.
just so fun to be on
Hmm.
this journey.
And I feel like both of our whys are served when we come together. So it's pretty cool. I love it. Okay, till next time, my friend.